Next, we have Dr. Smita Narayan talking to us about what happens to a manuscript after it is submitted.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now that you have heard how to write an original article and how to write an excellent case report, how to get out of the box ideas and enhance it with AI, let me tell you what happens to a manuscript after it is submitted. So I shall be giving you with my perspective as the outgoing editor of the Kerala Journal of Ophthalmology and also as a reviewer to some journals and also as an author to a large number of journals. So why does a journal exist? Our journal exists or any journal exists because they want to publish our research. But a journal also needs to improve its impact factor year after year. And for that, they need to publish outstanding research. Now, all of us are not Nobel Prize winners or who can get out of the box ideas like certain people here. But so we are more likely to face rejections. So please take it to your heart that rejection is the norm in academic publishing. It is persistence which is the key. So keeping that in mind, let me tell you about the process of how a manuscript goes from the submission stage to the acceptance stage. So once the manuscript is submitted, it is assessed by a senior editor or a technical editor to perform a technical review. If it is not rejected at this stage, it is then taken up by an associate or assistant editor in the editorial board who does a baseline scientific review. Again, if it is not rejected, it goes to the reviewer who decides whether to review or not. And if the reviewer decides to review and then gives an approval, then the article is taken up. Then the article is taken up by the editorial board, which provides further approval. So let us look at what happens to the editorial workflow in greater detail. So once the manuscript is submitted, it reaches the editor's inbox in the dashboard provided by the publisher, and the manuscript is then looked for a technical check. Technical check means all those fine details which are provided in the journal's website, right from the title, is it too long, to the references, whether they are in the correct site, whether they have been cited properly in the journal, whether they are in the right order, all those things, including the photographs. Are they given in the TIFF or the JPEG format? Are the tables given in a form of a picture? So those things are all checked, and it is sent back to the author if the manuscript lacks any of those. And then it is resubmitted. Then the article goes for a baseline scientific review. Now, baseline scientific review is performed by a young, enthusiastic technical editor who is an assistant editor, and they make their decision by looking whether the article type is correct or not. So if there are more than 5 cases, it's not a case series. Instead, it is an original article. They look at the language, whether scientific language is utilized in writing the article and not a layman's language, not too many adjectives are utilized. They look for the completion, so whether it has the IMRAD format. I hope all of you are familiar with the IMRAD format, and also whether there is an abstract along with the article. The assistant editor also looks to the scope of the article and the significance of that article with respect to the current knowledge that is available, and also with respect to the readership of the journal and the possible impact it will have on the readers as well as on the journal itself. So at these stages, what are the reasons for editorial rejection? At these stages, it has not gone to the reviewer because the assistant editor who does a baseline scientific review, that is the person who makes it ready for the editor. The reasons for mismatch which are unrelated to the manuscript quality include a manuscript journal mismatch. So I'll give you an example. We had a submission where they had developed a scale so that the GPs and nurses can look at a patient and decide whether this patient can be sent to an ophthalmologist or not. That is, whether the condition of the patient is severe enough to be sent to an ophthalmologist. So as ophthalmologists, we are not interested in that kind of a manuscript, and so that was rejected. Sometimes it is space constraints. During COVID times, we had so many articles, but now the number of articles has come down to a trickle, and so the space constraints are again a reason why sometimes your article is not published on time. So sometimes there may be a similar submission which has been published or which is under active consideration. Again, I'll give you an example. During COVID times, we had published an excellent article on mucormycosis. So when other articles are submitted about mucormycosis, even though they are very good, we are unable to publish similar articles. Now, sometimes editorial rejection is because of reasons which are related to the manuscript quality. These reasons may not be scientific. They could be because there is a poor writing or poor organization, or it is having a poor rationale, or very importantly, it could be a flawed methodology. That is, it is not reproducible. Sometimes there is no IRB approval, or if it's a clinical trial, it is not registered. So once the article is ready for peer review, just what is a peer review? A peer review is the evaluation of the work by one or more people of similar competence to the authors. So the peer reviewer is either somebody who is a young person who has the same standing as the author, and another person who has a higher standing and higher experience as the author. So the peer review methods are employed to maintain the standards of quality and improve the performance and provide credibility. So peer review also is used to determine an academic paper's suitability for publication. Now, a peer review is not such a horrible, brutal process like this, but you should take this constructive criticism provided by the peer reviewer and utilize it to improve in writing your article. Now, what are the core values of peer review? Most importantly, of all the 8 values that are written over here, the most important is confidentiality. The peer reviewer should not take the ideas of that article and provide it to another person or use by himself or herself. These are why we do a peer review. The peer review process should be reproducible, including that it is true and credible. It should assess whether it has been the theme has been communicated effectively. Is there plagiarism in the article? And also, the peer reviewer should provide critical but constructive feedback regarding the article. This peer review process is a double-blind process. The reviewer does not know who the author or the institution is, but many a times you can find out by the way these people are writing, you can find out about the institution. Peer review report consists of 2 parts. The first part is part which is there in the dashboard of the journal itself, which tells about the novelty and the comprehensive nature or accuracy, etc. And the second part is the actual peer reviewer's comments. So once your article is approved by the peer reviewer and we have to know what is its outcome if it is not rejected. So it can be accepted without any modifications. That is very, very rare. Frederick Jacobi was the only person whose articles were accepted without any modifications. For lesser mortals like us, it could be a major revision with re-review where there is about a 70% chance of acceptance. Or it could be a minor revision where it is 95% chance of acceptance. So how do you respond to the peer reviewer's comments? So you keep your screen with your peer reviewer's comments on one side, and then you make a table with 3 columns. You write down the peer reviewer's comments in each column, and you give your response to the peer reviewer's comments in a very respectful and humble manner. And this response should be either that whether you agree with those comments or it could be a rebuttal, but that should be in a very decent language. And you can give the location of the changes that you have made with respect to the page number and the column and the line, and also you can highlight it in the main body of the manuscript. So what if your article is rejected? You have 4 options. You can submit to another journal without any changes, or you can submit to another journal with the changes suggested by the peer reviewer. Unusually and rarely, you can appeal to the given journal and wait for their response, or you can move on. Once your article is accepted, it goes through a copy editing process where the journal language editors do final correction and formatting. And there is a lot of back and forth movement of the article between the author and the editors. And finally, typesetting is done and the final check is done with respect to the author. And then your product comes online or in print. So is the process over? So no. So you can look at the impact that you have created by looking at the citations. So 3 citations, 3 options: Google Scholar, Scopus, and Web of Science. And also you can look at your journal's impact factor and the H index or ITIN index. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you, madam. You made the complex process seem to be very simple one. Thank you so much.
Give me the certificates, please.
I would like to add that the citation part of it, that is writing the citations bibliography, is very easy, especially for KGO. It is KGO is listed in the Zotero citations manager. So you go to Zotero, install Zotero. KGO, Kerala Journal of Ophthalmology, is one of the options in which you can select in that. You can make citations very easily.